Hello everyone and welcome to BleedRunning. Today we're going to have a race between Quote and LordSynn. We're going to be doing a hard story, and we're about to get ready to go. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1, go! Here we have it out. It's a game called Bleed 2. It's a bit of a platforming and a lot of bosses. Today we have Quote and LordSynn running it, and we will be, Quote has a general advantage about a minute and a half on the run, so we'll see how that shows up today. The first section here you'll see is a quick little platforming thing. It's all about maximizing your movements throughout the game. Synn's doing pretty well right now. I think Quote's having a little bit of a lag issue with his video right now, but hopefully that'll get caught up. Synn's already into his first introduction boss, which is the Shield Invader, which is just a quick deflect, which is one of the big components of the game. These purple bullets you see there on the screen can be deflected by the blades, and it gives you good damage, and it also will make the attack not hit you, which is also good too. Synn's already onto his second little mini-boss of the first level, which was the Rolling Invader, which he did a pretty good job there of just getting it before it even gets out of its roll. He'll be coming up next to the Blast Jumper. Let's see if we can figure out what... Oh, there's Quote slowly going. Yeah, we have some video lag on Quote's end. Those big yellow balls are not deflectable, so Synn did a good job there of getting out of the way. The big part about these bosses, and a lot of the bosses in the game, is that you do not want to have that boss go off the screen. Anytime it's off the screen, it means you're not doing damage. And Synn finishes it up that pretty quickly. He'll be going to the next section here. Quote himself is moving his way through. Hopefully that video is going to catch up real quick for us. Synn himself is now into the next little, almost like an auto-scroller where you don't actually scroll. He's got a few more of these guys, and then we'll come up onto the first boss of the level. The actual true boss here. Here we have Mirror Core coming in from the background on Synn's screen. Shoots out a lot of reflectable stuff here at the start. Just getting those in. Alright, now you see him going purple. That's another good deflect by Synn there. That's a lot of damage done. Synn's doing pretty well. He's making pretty good time. Be interesting to see because Quote did lag a lot now, so we don't actually know where he is, but he did finish up the Blast Jumper there and is on to the second stage, while Synn's going through the first stage now, entering into level 2. The big difference between story mode and arcade mode, freestyle mode, is freestyle mode you have a lot of different items and weapons that you can switch to, including dashes, which really change up the run a lot, but here we're doing a hard version of the story mode, which means we get as many lives as we need, but we can only use pistols and katanas. So now we have LordSynn coming up into the kitty chopper. There's a few instances here. You really want to get this as quick as possible because depending on the RNG of the bosses, there is one move here which takes a good amount of time. So hopefully he can get rid of the kitty chopper before that happens. Quote's finishing up on the Mirror Core. He's going to be going right into the highway level as well. Synn quickly makes work of the kitty chopper, and now he's moving on. This is one of the tougher. There's a big difficulty uptick here on this level, especially when you're trying to go fast. Synn did it pretty well. He's on to the semi-core now, which is your rival from the first game, making a reappearance in Bleed 2. Ooh, he gets a good deflection on that missile there coming up the top. It's a good amount of damage. You'll see there's a few different attacks that the semi-core will make. He's giving him another missile. Unfortunately, that one was yellow and not deflectable. Here, he'll just try to slam the top. And that's it for Synn. He's going on to the next phase. Quote's coming in and stepping up onto the kitty chopper here. So hopefully he'll get through that really quickly. And Synn is already through his next segment, and now on to the first appearance of Valentine. This is one of the biggest changes from going from new game to freestyle. Freestyle will actually have weapons here where we can break this shield very easily, and we won't actually need our rival's help. But in new game, with having only pistols and katanas, yep, there are those missiles coming in. Now our rival is going to actually help us out here with LordSynn. Quote got by the kitty chopper now. He's slowly making his way up to the semi-core. The big thing about this fight with Synn's in right now is you got to make sure that the semi-core there, driven by your rival, doesn't take damage, so they can fire their laser and break that shield around Valentine. And Synn's doing a very well done. Should one more cycle and he'll be all set with this boss here. Quote's onto the semi-core now. And he gets a good deflection there by Synn. This should be the last one. And he's got it. Alright. So now Synn is going to be going with the rival, and they're going to be taken off into the air next. Quote himself is moving through pretty quickly. He's already by the kitty chopper, I believe. Yep. And he's already onto Valentine. Synn's getting through his cutscenes here. The next segment up is just a few small enemies before Red Sprite appears, the next boss. Quote is going into his Valentine fight. Looking good, just waiting for that rival to show up to knock off that shield for him, and there they go. Synn's doing a good job here of just keeping those ads off the screen. Alright, now we get the Red Sprite, who fires off these pink or yellow bullets all at random. And then he'll have a bunch of ads coming on the screen. Your best bet is to try to ignore the ads as much as you can and try to keep just damage on that Red Sprite. Oof, alright, yes. And he got it. Nice job, only taking one hit there. Quote's still into his fight with Valentine. Looking like he's almost done with it here in this last phase. Synn's getting ready before his next boss face, which would be the Ninja. Ninja's always an interesting fight. Usually one of the more difficult ones when you're trying to learn the speed run. It's very small, subtle hints in the ninjas. The first phase of the ninjas not too bad, as you just saw. Big practice in deflecting here. You want to make sure you avoid those yellow ones. Quote finished off his Valentine fight, and he's going through, getting ready to face the Red Sprite. Now Synn's into the difficult part. He's using his katana as well. The ninja will deflect a lot of your attacks. He has 3 different attacks he can take in this phase. Synn's doing a very good job of maximizing his damage. And that's it. We barely even got to see any of the different attacks that the ninja can give you. Quote is going against Red Sprite right now. Looks like he's got a lot on there. He's getting some deflections in. That's good. Health looking good. Synn's now onto his next small little part here. We'll see a lot of bubbles on the field at this point, as there's a lot of enemies on the screen shooting at you, which isn't too bad if you, so long as they keep moving and they only fire at where you are, not where you're going to be. All right, Synn's getting ready, jumping off missile to missile, getting ready to face Rex Rocket. Rex Rocket fires off missiles, and yep, he's got a couple different attacks. He'll do the yellow or a purple variant of those multi-attacks. Ooh, he's got a lot of stuff on the screen. His health is getting a bit low. We'll have to make sure. He's almost at the end of the level here, though. If he dies, he'll start right at the start of the Rex Rocket fight, which is not ideal, but not totally punishing. And there it is. Synn finishes off Rex Rocket. Quote has into his fight with the ninja. Not much is known about the ninja. He's a man of mystery, or a woman. We don't even know his gender or her gender. Synn's finishing off. He's going into the launch now. Quote looks like he's finishing off the second phase of the ninja. Yeah, yes. He'll be going off to face the Rex Rocket. Alright, so Synn now has gone on to the Chaff Spammer, or Space Pills as I like to call it. This is a tough boss here. Just not really a tough boss, just more of an annoyance with all the extra ads that he throws on the screen here. So the best bet is just try to get as much damage on it, and if you can, avoid the Space Pills. If you can't, you can destroy them, but then you're not shooting the boss. And Synn is doing a pretty good job. He's almost got it cleaned up here. Quotes onto his Rex Rocket fight. It's pretty healthy by the looks of it. Synn's now entered the first auto-scroller. Well, the only real auto-scroller here. It's not too bad of an auto-scroller. The only big problem is you do not want to take any damage during this auto-scroller. It will speed up though as you progress, and if you take any damage, the auto-scroller speed resets, and you do end up losing a good amount of time. Quote has finished his Rex Rocket fight, and looks like he is moving on. Synn's doing a good job here. He's got good speed on his auto-scroller, and he finishes through that part. Now we'll have some space debris falling on him here as he makes his way through this segment. Quote is getting into the Chaff Spammer. He's getting his own dose of Space Pills right now. LordSynn is now onto the reboss fight from the first bleed. First up is Robo-Guppy. Pretty basic standard boss here. He's going to get like 2 real variants of attacks. Yep, he's going to try to drop down there. Oh, and Synn does get the deflectable version, so that is good for him. Quotes just finishing it off this Chaff Spammer now. Up next is the worms. These are a little more difficult of a boss to deal with. It's almost like you're dancing with them. You get one that goes on the screen as the other one leaves the screen. Ooh, that is a tough one. Synn does it perfectly, though. Quote's going into his auto-scroller now. Moving through, his health total looks pretty good there. Ooh, and again, Synn gets those again. And they are both playing on the hard difficulty here. And Synn finishes up. Next up is Robo-White for him. Quotes through his auto-scroller. Trying to make good time. Trying to catch up here. He's into his boss rush now. Synn's doing a pretty good job with the Robo-White. His health is a little low, but he should be fine. Quotes now onto the Robo-Guppy. This is another one of those fights that you're really hampered by your Pistol and Katana. In the freestyle versions, we'll have charge lasers or rockets that we can use to get through that shield that Robo-White has, but unfortunately in story mode we have pistols. New game mode, sorry. And through that he's onto Robo-Bunny now, Synn is. Uh-oh, I think, let me try to get Quote's stream back, right? Hopefully we can fix that real quick. There we go. I think we're back. Alright, and Quote is already on to Robo-White, so that is good. Hopefully some of our video lag got caught up there. And Synn's already through. Robo-Bunny, he's on to the next stage. Good deflection there by Quote. So now Synn is going to make his way through here. This is, for me personally, one of the more difficult runs. I'm not good at this game, but whenever I try to go fast through this area here, I always take damage. But Synn's doing a pretty good job. Let's see if he can get the infamous corner without taking damage. Oof. Can't tell if he... It looks like he took a little bit of damage there. That corner gets everybody, though. And Quote's onto Robo-Bunny. Doing pretty good, about to finish it up. And Quote's got it. Alright, Synn's already into the segment slider. This is another one of these bosses that, depending on RNG, can give you a really good run or a really, really frustrating one. You want to get those first middle cores to slide out, so that way you can actually do damage to the boss. Quote's going into his platforming section right before the segment slider. Synn could finish it off here. Yes, he does. That's good. You don't want to have that slide over and go through a whole nother cycle. Quote flying, though. I don't believe I missed it. I'm not sure. He might have made that corner clear. Alrighty, Synn's getting ready to go face off against the Nemesis core. And doing a pretty good job on his platforming section. Quote is still fighting the segment slider right now. Yes, Synn is now into the Nemesis core fight. First stage of the Nemesis core fight is pretty straightforward. You want to just constantly get as much damage on that center eye as possible. There'll be a lot of things to reflect here to get extra damage. That was a really good reflection there. He hit a lot of the bullets right back in, and he's just about to finish it up while Quote is finishing off the segment slider. Nemesis Core 2 fight is a little bit harder, especially on the new game mode. We don't really have a good way of breaking that outer core on him, so we got to kind of wait for him to use some of his abilities to expose a bit of himself, or you can deflect like that. In the freestyle modes, we'll have rockets or other weapons that will let us do this much quicker. And Quote has entered his first phase of the Nemesis fight. Synn's now halfway through Nemesis Core. Ooh, and he gets another good deflection there. Quote getting a lot of deflects there. He got an all-purple attack there, which is really nice for him. And Synn has finished off his Nemesis Core. He's ready to move on. Quote finishing off the first phase, now going into the phase 2. Now here we have Synn going from platforming with some sections that close on you and these little balls here. If you notice how some of those balls have yellow or purple balls inside of them, and when you break the balls, those bullets come flying out, so you got to be careful. Quote is getting a good reflection here. Yeah, slow down time a little bit just to ensure that he made sure that he got that deflection. Synn's now facing off against his next boss, which is the Anti-Battalion. This is a collection of little bloblets that like to take different forms. What the two forms we really want to see here, well, the first form we really want to see here is Pac-Man, which he's getting bullets that he can deflect, which can do some pretty good damage, but takes some time. But we really want to see, there it is, that's what we want to see, the Pac-Man. You can do a lot of damage here. There's two different ends to this Pac-Man, and he does get the deflectable end. Quote finishing off Nemesis Core, now entering to his platforming section. Synn just needs maybe one more. Will these bullet deflections be enough? They are. Synn is ready to move on. He is done with Anti-Battalion, while Quote is having a little trouble here with the platforming sections. Health is a little low, but so long as he gets into the boss fight, then he should be fine. If he dies on the boss, he'll just have to restart there, won't have to go through that platforming again. And he does make it. Quote gets to start off on his Anti-Battalion fight. And now Synn is entering into his showdown with Valentine. There's a multi-stage section here for Synn. Getting some decent RNG there. Oh, I just tried to... Alright, I think Synn has us open, so I do not want to have an echo on the stream there. Alright, Synn doing a pretty good job on the first phase of Valentine there. Quote's getting a saw here to finish off Anti-Battalion. Second phase is a little bit tougher on Valentine. Ooh, that's a... Not... Ooh, actually, that was a really good second phase RNG there with the blue drops. Oof. Getting a lot of his attacks blocked here. Although the blue flies there falling down aren't doing too bad of a job for him, as he's able to keep his damage up the whole way through. Quote's now getting ready for his Valentine fight. Let's see. And Synn's getting ready for his final phase of the Valentine fight, possibly. See if they set up a death skip at all here. And Synn's getting ready for his... Alright. Trying to do game audio, but apparently they both have me on, so I don't want you guys to hear an echo, so we're gonna forgo that for now. And is Synn going for it? Yep, Synn's going for his death skip here, skipping the animation here. He's into his final phase. Let's see if he can get his taunt locking in here in place. Misses the first one on Synn. Quote's now trying to, playing a little pong. Gets the kill there, moving on to the next phase. There we go. Synn gets the taunt and the crowd goes in his favor. He's going to try to lock him down. Does he get that hit? He does. Alright, let's see if he gets another one. See if he can keep Valentine locked down. He does. And that's it for Synn. He'll be going on to the rival fight soon. Quote's already into his third phase. So Quote is right behind Synn. With the video lag, this might be even closer than it looks on screen. Yeah, I apologize for the game audio. I wanted to do game audio, but I realized there would be an echo there on both streamers, so. And Quote is finishing off this section here, almost, while Synn is now getting ready for the rival fight. Rival fight is another multi-phase boss here with many different forms. Quotes, looks like he's in a good position here to get the little skip here on the animation. Hopefully he doesn't go too early. Yep. He's got it. And Synn now onto Mantis Core, the first of the rival fights. He's doing some decent reflections there. Fortunately, the first Mantis Core attack was a yellow one. This one here he'll be able to deflect back. Quote's trying to get ready for Valentine to stand still so he can start taunting and hopefully lock her up the whole rest of the fight. Synn has finished off Mantis Core. He's now into Whale Core. A little bit of a platforming section here before you can actually fight the boss. And Quote does finish off Valentine. So Synn is now onto the Whale Core fight. He's got 3 more phases after this phase to get through, while Quote will be just starting off on Mantis very soon. He's looking to... Synn is really looking to deflect as many of these purple missiles here as possible. Try to get as much damage, because Whale Core has a habit of flying off screen a lot, where you cannot do damage to him. Alright, Quote's getting ready to start off on his Mantis Core fight. Synn using a little bit of time slow there to make sure he guarantees the kill before the Whale Core goes off screen. Now we're into the Spider Core. Should be a few chances here to get a couple of deflections as well. Quote's working on finishing off the Mantis Core now. And he does it. He'll be going on to the Whale Core section next. Synn gets in a good deflection there. Moving Spider Core to the southern region. Oof, a little bit of a tough one there for Synn. Starting to be low health, but he does get through the Spider Core. That is good. Be interesting to see here if, for the Crawler Core next section, if he takes an intentional death early here, or if he tries to just get through it all to the final fight against the rival himself. Quote now with the Whale Core, getting some good deflections in here. Synn opting to try to get the Crawler Core first try here, does not want to take the death. Quote's doing pretty well against the Whale Core. Oof. Synn is living on the edge right now. Got the boss less than halfway here. Still looking at that one hit. He does not want to die now, especially after spending all this time. Ooh, and he makes it through that difficult spot there. Of course, moving on to the spider core section. Oh, and Synn does take a hit there, putting him back at the start of the crawler core. So that is definitely some time to make up for Quote. Quote is getting a good deflection there on the spider core. Synn's doing a very good job of actually getting through this the second time through. He's got a little more health to play with, so he can play a little more dangerously and try to up that damage output as much as possible. Quote's now into his crawler core section. Synn's now onto the final rival fight. The only boss in this game with 2 health bars. Rival has a few different attacks he can do. We do actually usually like that one. We just don't really want to see him pull out his katana at all. We want to see him doing more moves where he stays still, or that we can deflect. And Quote's halfway through the crawler core right now. Lots of rockets. Rockets are not the best. We have to actually shoot through the rockets to get the damage down on the rival, but he's already got 1 health bar down, who fails his game of Pog against the rival. Here's a katana we did not want to see either. Alright, Quote's finishing off crawler core, going into his final rival fight. A little more Pong here, but Synn says, you know what, I'm all set. Doing pretty good on his health value here. You should be able to get it, and that'll be time for Synn in a couple of seconds here. Ooh. And now we have Quote about a quarter of the way through his final rival fight. Opting not to play Pong with his rival. Getting a lot of rockets now, but still getting some good damage out there. Once again, saying, nope, I'm not playing Pong with you, sir. Gets a good deflection there. And can he finish it up? There it is. Quote comes in after. Alrighty, guys, we're going to take a short break. Let's give Synn... Yeah, we're going to take a quick short break, and then we'll come right back with the second part of the race. Alrighty, everyone. We are all set for our next race. The winner of the last race was Quote. And we're going to give him his little ice cream sundae there. We're going to be doing it's a best of 3 today. I forgot to mention that earlier. I apologize. So we have at least 1 more race going tonight. And looks like we have both races all set and ready to go for the next part. So, 3, 2, 1, go! Alrighty. Let's hope that we don't have as much of a delay on this one. Yep, looks like we're going to get a quick restart here by Synn to try to get those timings better. Quote has gone ahead and used a gray overlay to try to increase or decrease the lag on the stream, so hopefully that'll help us out there. Alrighty, so now we are getting right through it here. Quote's moving in through his first stage, getting ready to face the shield defender, and now I should be able to have game audio from Synn. There we go, and we don't have any echoes now. Perfect. Quote finishing it off that. He's moving through here. This is my first time watching a grayscale run. Quote's now onto his rolling invader. Same with Synn. Making short work of that second intro boss. Now they're going to be going into the blast jumper here. Yes, if anybody's interested, we do have the YouTube playlist we use public. It can be found on the Discord server for Bleed. Both the contestants right now fighting the blast jumper. Getting a good amount of deflections in there. Ooh, Synn just missed one right there. Quote's just about to wrap up the fight. He does. And Synn finishes right behind him. Next onto our not an auto-scroller level. Both of them doing very well right now. For those of you just joining us, I missed the first race. This is a new game, hard story mode. What that means is that they have no extra characters to use, no extra weapons, or no extra dashes. We're just stuck with our Pistols and Katana making it through this. They're both on the mirror core fight now. Quote gets a good deflection there. There is a lot of RNG in the game, as you can see. The boss doing completely different things on each screen. And coming down to the wire here, and Synn has just finished it up with that deflection, and Quote right behind him. If you look at the timers are slightly off on the screen, so it does appear that Synn might be slightly in the lead right now, as we have about a 5-second delay on each stream. Both doing very well. Moving into the highway phase now, with lots of kitties everywhere. The platforming in these parts are particularly tough because there's a lot of up and down movements, and there is a lot of big purple balls that we do not want to run into. Synn stepping up and fighting into the kitty chopper now. Quote getting there just seconds behind him. Big missile deflection there for Synn. Quote getting a zone deflection there, and Synn doing the same. They're both looking like they're getting a good amount of deflections in here, doing a lot, and there goes the kitty chopper for Synn. Quote looking for another deflection here. And Quote has finished it off his kitty chopper. Now into the more difficult section of the second level. The race to the semi-core. Synn getting there now. Fighting his rival from Bleed 1. Getting a little bit of the nostalgia here. Can he get that? He does get the deflection on the large missile, as Quote starts his semi-core fight. Alright, Synn's doing a pretty good job. Both our contestants are pretty healthy. Ooh, Synn just barely getting that second deflection off to finish off semi-core. Quote's already got him down to less than half health, while Synn is moving on to try to fight Valentine for the first time. Quote finishing off his semi-core fight, and ooh, takes a little bit of a fall there, losing a second or so there with that unfortunate platforming. Synn starting off his Valentine fight. And Quote getting ready as well. And alrighty, this is another one, like I said, in freestyle speedruns we would be able to do this a little bit quicker, as we'll have the firepower to take care of those shields. But as of now, in a new game, we are kind of stuck waiting for our rival to help us out here. I've got to make sure that that truck does not get hit by any of these attacks here. Ooh, there's a great reflection there by Synn, and Quote follows it up by the same. Slowing down time just so slightly. Make sure he gets those deflections off and saves their rival's semi-core. And Synn just about finishing it up. Yep, that's the end of his fight. Quote needs one more cycle after this, and then he'll be ready to move on. Gets the harder of the deflects there. 3 of those purple cars are never fun. And Quote's just about to finish it up now. Both our races are very close. It's probably about like an 8-second difference between the two. And Synn's getting ready for his next phase, which is another one where you're just pretty much standing right on the semi-core the whole time, or actually whale core now, and dealing with a lot of these birds and these big projectiles here until Red Sprite shows up, and there she is. Synn's doing a good job, gets a couple of reflections right off the bat. Quote's doing well with his stage there, taking no damage whatsoever. Synn's got a lot of little guys on the screen right now, but he does a good job of avoiding them all and finishing off Red Sprite as Quote gets ready to fight Red Sprite. Really trying to ignore as much of those ads as possible until the Red Sprite will actually make one of their attacks will bring all those little guys right towards you, right there, as you saw on Quote's screen. And Quote finishes that off. Synn makes quick work of his next section and is getting ready to fight the Ninja. First phase of Ninja is always about deflections and avoiding these yellow lightnings. The second part of Ninja here, there is a way to tell which attack he will do. He'll change his sword just so slightly, the angle, before the attack. It's a very hard one to pick up, one that I have issues with myself. But if you can actually start to see that, it'll give you a couple of seconds early warning of what exactly attack is going to come at you. Quote's getting ready to finish off his phase 1 of the Ninja here. Synn's now getting ready to make his way towards the Rex rocket fight. He's got to survive all these little guys flying across the screen and throwing shots at him. Quote himself finishes off the Ninja. The enigma that is the Ninja. And since through his auto-scroll, it takes a little bit of damage falling off the screen there, unfortunate, but should have plenty of health to deal with the Rex rocket here. Quote's going through his little bullet hell section, while Synn is doing a fairly good job on this. Hopefully he wants to see those purple missiles come out. Those purple missiles are ones you can actually deflect there. That's unfortunate. He got a yellow and a purple, so. But Synn does finish off Rex Rocket. He's ready to move to the next one. Quote starting off his Rex Rocket fight. Like I said, we want to see those purple missiles get shot out, because we can reflect those back at Rex Rocket. Fortunately, he doesn't want to cooperate with either of our runners. Here we go. Oops. Yes, Quote does get a good deflection, and he gets 2 of them back to back. It's a lot of damage there. Synn's now moving on to his next platforming section. Getting ready to go face the Chaff Spammer. Get his daily dose of space bills. I've always thought this guy would be great for a Dr. Mario game. Quote's going into the platforming before the Spaff Jammer now. Chaff Spammer himself doesn't do too much. He just shoots out a lot of ads on the screen and then makes him move around a little bit. So once again, it's not the scariest boss. It's more of just like making sure you can just constantly do as much damage. Synn's there doing some good jumps to make sure that he's hitting the Chaff Spammer and not those space pills. Quote now onto his Chaff Spammer fight. Actually looking like it did a good job of just clearing out a lot of that stuff before it actually cluttered the screen. Synn's entering into his auto-scroller now. Once again, ooh, that is exactly what we don't want to see. You do not want to take damage on this auto-scroller section. The speed of the auto-scroller is actually increases every second that you don't take damage, but if you do take damage, that'll reset that speed of the auto-scroller, and it is a definite time loss. Quote now, also in the auto-scroller section here, if he takes no damage, he should be able to make up a second or two. Synn through the auto-scroller now, moving on to his refights of the original Bleed's bosses. Starting off with the Robo-Guppy. Quote, just towards the end of his auto-scroller now. Needs to go through one more platforming section before he gets to his Robo-Guppy fight. Unfortunately for Synn there, Robo-Guppy did not want to be purple and let him deflect there. And that should be it there. Synn's now on to the next one. The Robo Worms here. I always want to call them Murdos for some reason. I think it's because of the beak. But they are definitely some worms. Synn opting to go ahead of that pattern that time, not getting stuck between it like he did twice the time before that. As Quote starts off his Robo-Guppy fight. And actually finishes off his Robo-Guppy fight. That was very quick. Synn wants to finish off on this section here. And he does. Alright, we'll see them one more time before they go bye-bye. Quote's now onto his worms. Doing a pretty good job as Synn starts off his Robo-White. Robo-White's always a tough one in New Game because we cannot break through that shield. We just have to time our shots well and deflect when we can. Quote finishing it off. Quote's going to be starting up his Robo-Fight now. We're getting very close in our times here, guys. Having a good race right now. Looks like with the timers, Synn is just ahead slightly. Robo-White's one of the longer ones here, but Synn has got it done. Going off to Robo-Bunny next. Quote, a quarter of the way through his fight. Robo-Bunny's always tough. She gets a lot of stuff on screen. She likes to dash all over the place, making it very hard to keep your attacks right focused on her. Synn looking for a good deflection there. He gets it. This Quote has now got Robo-White halfway down. And Synn has finished off Robo-Bunny. And Quote looking to get the last couple of hits. The shield is not cooperating with him right now. There it is. Quote's going on to the Robo-Bunny next. Robo-Bunny, she doesn't have too many moves. She only has really like these two things here where she'll shoot out a couple of yellow pills and then one purple pill. You definitely want to deflect that for max damage. And she'll call down a big space car from above, and gotta make sure you avoid all those things. Synn making quick work of his next platforming section, going into the next boss. Like I said, on these ones here, the slider core here, you definitely want to see that middle part come flying out first. You want to be able to get damage on that core inside. But with those middle parts still not moving, you really can't hit it. Synn taking a little bit of damage there, but going for those extra deflects. Ooh, that's a big miss there for him. It's a lot of potential damage he could have got on that deflection there. Quote's going into his side-scrolling section now. He actually makes it around the corner without taking damage. It's very good for him. He's going to start off his fight now, as Synn gets ready to go into 0G and start platforming through these scary, scary balls that hopefully won't shoot out bullets at him. Alright, he's stepping up and getting ready for his nemesis. Takes a quick intentional death here. Does not want to have to die halfway through and redo that whole fight over again. Quote finishing up. Looks like he's doing pretty good with that sliding core there. Synn's getting ready to finish off the first phase of the Nemesis core, going into the second phase of the Nemesis core, which is the difficult one. Quote finishing off the segment slider, now going into his platforming, into coming up to the Nemesis core. Nemesis core here, it moves erratically, it has sudden bursts of speed. It is just one of those bosses where it's never comfortable fighting them. Synn getting some good deflections in there, knocking off some of that plating so we can actually land some damage on the Nemesis core part 2. Oof. Unfortunately, that part was not deflectable, but the second one is. Quotes into his Nemesis core part 1 fight. And looks like he has got it onto phase 2. Synn has finished up phase 2. He's going into his fight against the anti-battalion, which is always a fun RNG boss to see. Hopefully we'll see a lot of Pac-Mans for Synn. Quote getting a good deflection there on Nemesis core. Opening up some vulnerabilities on it to actually start doing some damage. His health value is low, but he should be okay. LordSynn is ready to start off the anti-battalion fight now. So we get a Pac-Man first try for Synn. We'll hopefully see, yes, that is a purple one. Unfortunately, Synn did not get a deflection on it just because of the placement of the boss when it decided to charge. So there is some damage left on the table there. Getting the bullets next. Few good deflections there. Already halfway through the fight. He's got about a quarter of his health left. Gets another Pac-Man. We like to see that. Sharks aren't too bad. Oh, he actually finishes off before the shark plunges. Quote's now working his way towards anti-battalion. Taking his time here a little bit. Very tough on this platforming section here. If you don't hit it like you normally do, it's all your timing's thrown off because of all the moving pieces and the bouncing bubbles. But Quote makes it through and is on to anti-battalion. Synn's getting ready for his multi-stage fight of Valentine. See how the RNG treats him this time. Ooh, that is a rough fly RNG right there. Lots of minions on there where you cannot do damage to the boss herself. Quote going through his anti-battalion, getting a saw, which is one of the better ones that we like to see. Shark's also pretty decent. We can get some good damage on those forms. Synn moving into his next phase of the Valentine fight. Trying to make sure that he can get out of the way of those. So he's a little Pong. Wins Pong, which is always good. It's a good damage value there. Quote finishing off his anti-battalion fight. Synn setting up for his death skip here. Trying to lose a little bit of the health early on. Make sure he can kill himself real quick and skip that final animation before the final fight against Valentine. Quote moving on to his Valentine fight now. We've got a lot going on. Alright, Quote looking like he's got some decent RNG there with those flies. Synn just getting ready for the final phase of Valentine here. Getting ready for his death skip. And he gets it. Quote finishing off his phase of the Valentine fight. We're going to see if Synn can actually get the taunt lock stun here on Valentine. Hopefully we want to taunt just before so she's standing still. And make sure those tomatoes and cans actually hit her. And he does get the lockdown. Can he continue it? There's another one, and he gets it. Gets the whole stun lockdown on that whole fight. Very well done by Synn. Quote. Now getting ready for his next Valentine fight, while Synn's getting ready to head on home and face that rival. Quote's a little under half health, so looks like he's in good shape to try to do the skip himself. Quote's doing a good job of dodging a lot of those attacks at the end. See here if he can finish off Valentine quick. Synn's ready to start off his Mantis Core fight. And Quote's getting ready for his death skip. Ooh, this death skip's going to be hard with the grayscale in there, as you can't see the timer. There we go, he's using the Valentine sprite in itself to make sure that he did not die too soon and having to refight the previous phase, which would not be ideal. Synn's off, getting a good deflection here on the Mantis. Almost done with the Mantis. Now the rival's going to show up in his Whale Core. We have a small platforming section here. Synn's moving quickly through, just waiting for that screen to allow him to move up. And he does avoid the laser. Quote finishing off his Valentine fight. Getting ready for his rival here. Synn got a few of those missiles deflected back into it, which is always what we want to see. It's always difficult to keep damage going on that boss, but actually not blowing up the purple missiles there, as we want to not destroy them and use them to deflect back. Quote starting off on his Mantis Core fight next. And Synn finishes off the Whale Core. Synn setting up the Spider Core. There's a few key reflections here in this fight that we want to make sure we can get. Synn making short work of it here. Quote's doing a very good job against that Mantis Core, getting a lot of deflections there to end that phase of the fight. Synn just about ready to move on to the Crawling Core section. He did take a death here in the last race, but he's looking a lot healthier than he was, so hopefully we will not see another one of those. Quote getting ready for his Whale Core fight. Like I said, we want to see Quote knocking all those missiles that he can right back into the Whale Core there. Synn doing a good job right now. Getting a lot of damage out early on that Crawling Core. He can actually take some damage if he really wanted to, as his health bar is pretty good. Already getting the Crawling Core down to below half health here. Ooh, almost gets stuck, but does manage to make his way out, switching to katanas there. Hides behind the safety of those gray blocks. Quote is getting close to finishing off the Whale Core, as Synn does finish off the Crawling Core. Synn now ready to fight off against his rival, the 2 health bar rival. We got a yellow bar and a red bar we got to get rid of. We are not looking for the rival to pull out his katana, because that stalls us out. We do like when he calls down the missiles, because he stands still a lot. And Synn going for only 1 round of Pong before backing out. Another missile for Synn, he likes that. Quote's going on to his spider crawl, the second part of it. Just getting ready to finish off and go into that crawling core section. Another good deflection there by Synn on the rival. Getting those deflections are great because he falls to the ground and sits on the ground for a little bit, and we can get a lot of damage in there. Unfortunately, he is switching over to the katana now, but Synn follows suit, finishing it off with the katana himself. And that's our time there, guys. 26:44 for LordSynn. Quote style going through his crawling core section. Looking fairly decent with his health total there. Sticking low to the bottom here. Barely dodging out of the way of those expertly. And just slowly chipping away at that health bar. Then it'll be into the rival fight next. And Quote finishing off his crawling core, getting ready to fight the rival now. We want to see a lot of missiles, we want to see a lot of stuff that we can deflect, and we want that rival standing still for as long as possible so we can do the DPS. Unfortunately, we get the exact opposite, we get a katana start from the rival. Missile coming in, Quote doing good damage there. Has to avoid that deflection as it's yellow and he cannot reflect that attack. Again with another katana. Quote is not having the best of luck here in the rival fight. Performing well, it's just RNG is not agreeing with him. Decides to skip Pong for the day. And again another katana section. Oof. This is unfortunate for Quote, this kind of RNG here. Let's hope with the second half of the health bar, we get a lot of good RNG for him. Unfortunately, that is, again, another katana. Quote going through the rocket phase pretty decently, getting a good amount of damage there, trying to avoid the rockets and just hit the rival himself. Almost done now, just a few more shots, he'll have it. And there it is. Wait for that game clear screen. And Quote there with a 29:02. Alright, so that is going to be a victory for LordSynn. Let's make sure we give LordSynn his nice little ice cream sundae there, and we will be back with the exciting conclusion of this race. Stay tuned for race 3, where the winner will take all. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the stream. We're getting ready for race number 3 here in a winner-take-all scenario. We'll have Quote versus LordSynn once more, and the winner of this race wins the whole night's race. We have our runners ready, so we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, go! Alrighty, our setup looks pretty good this time. It looks like we only have a short little 3-second delay between each of the streams here. Welcome everybody, we'll say it before and we'll say it again. If you have not seen any of our speedruns before, we are doing a new game, hard mode. And that means that we are stuck with just pistols and katanas. We have none of the extra characters, none of the extra weapons, none of the extra dashes, none of that good jazz. Both of our runners are right onto the shield invader right now, our quick first intro boss here. Both making short work of that, getting into the next section here. First boss teaching us how to deflect properly. This next boss will teach us the mechanics of slowing down time, even though our runners may or may not decide to use it. Synn going to slow down time, and Quote deciding to not there. Both doing very quick work, and going on to the Blast Jumper. Blast Jumper is our first actual boss of this run. We want to really do our best to keep them on the screen as much as possible. Anytime they're not on the screen, we can't do damage. Both getting in good amount of deflections there. Synn finishing it off his Blast Jumper. Quote right behind him there. Looking like we got Quote with a slight lead from the delay. Maybe not. It's very close to tell right now. Still a lot of race left. Looking like we're going to have a good third race here for us. Now we're into our auto-scroller that's not really scrolling. Section of the highway where we're running along. Lots of little bullets here. Nothing too much to trip up our runners. And here comes the mirror core for Synn. Synn getting a lot of deflections there on the first attack. Quote unfortunately has a lot more yellow bullets, so could not get as many deflections in as he'd like. Synn moving in now, avoiding the missile there. And finishing it off the mirror core. Quote avoiding the missiles there. Really hoping for, ooh, that is a good section there. And to follow up with another reflection there. And Quote has finished off his mirror core. Time to break out into the highway. A lot of kitties on our highway here today. I'm gonna have to make sure we do not get hit by the kitties or the little flies. Synn doing his good job, quickly making his way into the kitty chopper. Quote right behind him here. Synn looking for those purple missiles that we can deflect right back in. Oh, that's a big missile there, and he lands it. That is a good amount of damage. You definitely want to hit that reflection each time you can. Quote signing off his kitty chopper fight as Synn finishes off his. Quote looking for those purple rockets to reflect. Unfortunately, the helicopter itself goes yellow and he was unable to reflect that. Synn now moving into his fight against the rival in his semi-core, rival being from the first game of Bleed. Quote finishing off his semi-core and, finishing off his helicopter and making his way towards his semi-core. Synn unfortunately hasn't got a missile yet that he can deflect back in. Oh, here we go. A nice purple missile right from the center, and he's got the semi-core finished. Quote's working on his semi-core now, narrowly dodging that one. And quick reflection there. Barely even saw that missile come out of the semi-core before Quote had knocked it back down. Synn now ready to start off his first Valentine fight. Once again, since we are on a non-freestyle, only a new game mode, we do not have the rockets to break Valentine's shields ourselves, and we'll have to rely on our rival to come and help us out. Quote now starting his Valentine fight. Synn doing a good job of keeping that laser away from the semi-core so that it can attack and break that shield down for him. Halfway through the fight, he needs 2 more cycles here and he'll be ready to move on. Quote now getting his rival to show up and help him out. Synn now just onto his last rotation here. If he can keep that semi-core not taking damage, he does. And he should be wrapping up his fight momentarily here. Quote now, halfway through his battle. Here, he's got to blow up that truck and make sure all those little debris do not hit the... And the missile goes out, destroys his shields. One more cycle for Quote. Valentine's going to try to shoot a laser, and misses completely. And Quote's going to finish off that as well. We still have a very close race here. It's anyone's race at this moment. Synn is now making his way towards a red sprite. Shooting all the birds and the guys. And Red Sprite has now made her appearance known. Unfortunately, Synn did not get that second deflection off. Took a little damage there. Still very healthy. Quote's getting ready to fight Red Sprite now. And Synn finishes it off. Getting ready to fight. He's going to go through a small little phase here of a couple more guys coming after them, and then they'll be on to the ninja. While Quote is getting some... Oh, he got the yellow there. I don't want to ever see the yellow. We like those purple shots there. Gets 2 good deflections in. Quote looking for the last one, and that does finish off Red Sprite for him. Synn switching over to the Katana players and showing off a little bit there as he waits for the ninja to show up. Starts off with a couple of good deflections there. Wants to make sure we can avoid those yellows there, as we've stated previously. Purple's good. Purple we can deflect. Yellow we don't really like. We can't deflect those yellow bullets. Synn's now going into his phase 2 of the ninja. Opting to take some damage there just to increase his damage output as much as possible. Quotes now into the phase 1 of the ninja. A little low on health. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that one. See how he handles phase 2. Synn now getting ready to fight the little ads before Rex Rocket. Seeing a fair amount of purple shots there, which is good. Means we can deflect those and not have to worry about them hitting us. Quote now. Oh, did Quote took a death? I see. Alright, Quote took a death on the ninja, and now he's back into phase 1. Oh no, he's into phase 2 now. Okay. I think he took an intentional death at the start of phase 2. Just to play it safe. LordSynn now stepping up and fighting Rex Rocket. Rex Rocket here, we do not want to see those yellow bullets. We want those nice purple bullets. Or another purple missile. Purple missiles we can deflect right back. And do a good sizable damage chunk. And Synn does it, and he finishes it off pretty close to the bottom of the stage there. The closer to the bottom of the stage you defeat Rex, the quicker that little animation is, and it can save you a little bit of time. So it was a good job by Synn there. Quote now getting ready to go off and face against the Rex Rocket. Standing on Rex Rocket there for a little bit, asserting his dominance. Synn now going through his next platforming section here. Getting ready to face the chaff spammer. Ooh, Quote getting 2 back-to-back purple missiles there, deflecting both of them. That is good damage there. Synn now working his way through, halfway through the chaff spammer and all of his space pails. And Quote, same thing, gets that kill very close to the bottom of the screen there. Wasting no time falling off the screen in that little cutscene. He's going to be moving and making his way towards Chaff Spammer next. Synn now into our auto-scroller level. Once again, we do not want to take any damage, more so than any other part of the run. We do not want to take damage on this auto-scrolling part. If we take damage on this auto-scrolling part, the auto-scroller itself speeds up throughout the course of the level, and if we take damage, then that means that is, as you see right there, Synn took some damage. The speed of the auto-scroller itself slows back down, so it does cost us a little bit of a time loss there. Quote's now working on his chaff spammer, clearing out those space pills, making sure he can do as much damage to the boss itself as possible. And Synn is now making his way into the refights from Bleed 1. Quote is still working his way onto the chaff spammer there. Robo Guppy right now. Let's see here. He is going to give us a deflectable attack, and Synn will definitely take that. As Quote moves into his auto-scroller section now. Synn did take some damage here, so Quote can make up some time. Synn now done with Robo Guppy, and now is on to Robo Gimpy and Robo Stew. The worms, which I, for some reason, always want to call them birds. Don't ask me why, it's just a little thing I have. Quote now getting ready to get into his section right before the boss refights from Bleed 1. As Synn is just about to finish off the worms here. He's doing a little dance, and nice! He does get the kill with both of them on the screen, so that does save him some time there. He doesn't have to wait for an extra cycle of one half of the pair going through. He's now onto Robo White, while Quote starts off Robo Guppy. Synn getting a lot of good damage there on Robo White. Already got it down to less than half health. As Quote is making his way through Robo Guppy pretty quickly as well. Ooh, does take some damage there. Does get the deflect to end that part of the fight though, as Synn does finish off Robo White. Now Robo Bunny. Robo Bunny likes to flash all across the screen and drop space cards on us. Gotta always pick up where Robo Bunny is going to, as quick as possible so you can start shooting her. Quote now working on his worms. Quote. I think Quote took a death on the worms. I'm not sure. But Synn has just finished off Robo Bunny and is now going into the next stage, as Quote is trying to get rid of these worms. Synn moving quickly down and through, wasting no time. Ooh, does take some damage there, but ooh, and some more damage there. That's a rough section right there. That is one of the roughest platforming sections in the game. I've watched so many races where everybody seems to take some damage right around that corner. Since starting off against the segment slider here, we are looking for those middle sections to go first so we can actually damage the boss here. This is another one where in freestyle mode we have a couple of options we can do to do damage. Gets a good reflect there. Quote's now onto Robo White. Good deflection there. Ooh, Synn's actually getting a great segment slider fight here, getting 2 deflections back to back. Just needs a little more damage, should be able to finish it off right here, and he does. As Quote finishes off Robo White and moves on to Robo Bunny. Robo Bunny shooting out her own form of pills there, and Quote gets a good deflection. As Synn is now navigating his way through the 0G section of the game. Getting ready to fight the Nemesis Core. Nemesis Core Phase 1 is fairly straightforward. Deflect when you can and avoid everything else. The closer you are to that eye, the greater the chances you're going to deflect a lot more of those bullets there. As you see, Synn is getting almost all of them but 1 or 2. Getting, oh yeah, look at that. That was two phases, two attacks in a row where he deflected every single bullet right back into Nemesis core. Quote now getting ready to go through his section coming up to the segment slider. Synn taking a intentional death there at the start of phase 2 as his health was really low. He did not want to have to go through half that fight, die, then start the fight all over again. Nemesis Core Part 2 is always a little bit of a difficult one on New Game, as we have no way to break those plates with only our pistols, so we have to wait and use some of the own boss's moves against them to make them vulnerable. Quote starting up on his segment slider now. Gets a good reflection in there, and is getting damage down there. As Synn is just getting ready to wrap up the Nemesis Core version 2, or Part 2, and finishes that fight nice and clean. Quote now looking to try to finish off the segment slider. Might need one more rotation in there. Synn's looking to make his way towards the anti-battalion here. Making good time. Quote finishing off the segment slider. Making his way towards the Nemesis Core. Does that section very well, Quote. Oof, does take a little bit of damage there. Synn now getting ready to start his fight against Anti-Battalion. We're hoping for a lot of Pac-Mans here, guys. A lot of Pac-Mans for both our runners. Starting off with some bullets, deflecting them all. Quote working on Nemesis Core now. Got it already halfway through phase 1. Synn seeing a shark there. And gets a Pac-Man. So let's see if this Pac-Man's going to be a yellow or a blue. I'm sorry, a yellow or a purple. He does get the purple and he does get the deflection in. Quote now moving on to Nemesis Core 2. And Synn moving on from the ship, saying see you later as the ship blows up around him. Quote working on the Nemesis Core 2, hoping that he can get some of these plates gone. There they are. Now he can actually deal damage in the vulnerable parts. Unfortunately, ooh, he does dodge that. Could not deflect the first attack, but can deflect the second. Synn getting ready for his Valentine fight. Getting some damage down through those flies there. Avoids all the kitties to keep his damage up the whole time through. Quo finishes off Nemesis Core, and he is moving on, making his way towards Anti-Battalion. Synn finishing off his first phase of the Valentine fight. Oof, that's a rough RNG to start off there. Decides he wants to play a little bit of Pong there. Try to get around those robots to try to actually deal damage to Valentine. The rough part about this phase is that there's just so many ads that she adds to the screen that a lot of those ads will block your bullets from hitting her. Synn doing a little bit to set up for his death skip in the next phase. Quote reflecting off Anti-Battalion bullets right now. Let's hope we can get some Pac-Mans for Quote now. Quote needs some good RNG after his last rival fight. He does get the saw, which isn't terrible, but it's no Pac-Man. We like the Pac-Man because we can deal a lot of damage while it's in that form, and we have a chance to deflect it at the end as well. Gets another saw here, to Quote. Synn's just wrapping up his second to last phase against Valentine. Waiting just the right time. He does not want to try to do this death skip too early, for if you do it too early, you do have a chance to restart in the previous phase, and that is a time loss that nobody wants. So now Synn's going to be trying to do the taunt lock here. Lands the first taunt. Looking good for the second one. Yes, he does land the second taunt. And now for the third taunt. Lands it true. And finishes off Valentine. It's a good fight by Synn there. Now we'll just be moving on to the rival next as Quote starts off his Valentine fight. Quote getting decent RNG there with the flies. That last section of flies was not the best for him, but this one's a little better. Straight up and down is always the best, because then you can just stay in one location and just constantly deal damage to Valentine from right underneath her. Like that. Synn now starting off against his Mantis Core fight against the rival. Onto the last boss of the game. Let's see here. Synn did take a death during the crawling core section of these fights. And that's what Quote's probably hoping for to get himself back into the race. Synn with a good deflection on Mantis Core there. Moves on from the Mantis Core, getting ready to fight the Whale Core next. He's got a small little platforming section here. Hopefully he can avoid this big laser. Quote is now onto his second to last Valentine fight. Looks like he's in a good spot with his health to set up a death skip for the next phase. Synn starting off his fight against Whale Core. Looking to deflect as many of those purple missiles back into the core itself as possible. Fortunately, Whale Core is one of those ones where it's not too difficult of a fight, but the boss himself is off the screen a lot. So there's a lot of downtime where you can't actually deal damage to him. So we want to maximize reflecting those purple pistols back at him. Quote is now getting ready to do his death skip animation on Valentine's final phase. And he gets it. As Synn moves on to the Spider Core. Quote now trying to do his taunt lock here. Gets the first one off. As Synn cannot deflect that yellow missile. Oh, Quote does not get the stun lock there. Synn now just getting ready to flex the missile back in. Does have to go through another cycle of the spider crawl going back up to the top. Alright, looks like Quote's going to finish off Valentine right here. Yep, he's going to get ready to go on to the rival fight as Synn moves on to the crawler phase. Synn's health is looking a tiny bit low, but he should be able to get through the crawler. He may opt to take a death here, but maybe not. Looks like he's going to try to fight it out. As Synn here, he just wants to avoid those lasers. The crawler core itself is starting to speed up, but it does not give him... Oof. Alright, he just snuck himself behind those gray blocks there at the last second. As Quote's now fighting the Mantis Core. Moving through very quickly, staying in the center of the Mantis there, making sure you can deal damage as it spins its legs back and forth. And Synn has finished off the Crawler Core, going into the final fight against the rival himself. The old 2 health bar rival here. We don't want to see the katanas. Ooh, we do get a katana start there. Missile next is very nice as it stands the rival himself stands still while he shoots out the big, large missile. Lets us leave himself open for a lot. Ooh, another katana there. Synn's health is low. Should be able to do the whole fight, but he must keep on his toes, because 2 hits about is all he can take. Another katana there, as Quote is now moving on to the whale core section. Synn looking to take off the last bit of that first health bar now, moving well into the second one. Does he play Pong? No, no one wants to play Pong with a rival today. Quote reflecting some of those missiles back into the whale core, making sure he can do his maximum amount of damage while whale core is on the screen. And Synn gets another katana attack. Unfortunately there was a yellow attack, and another into another katana. Woof. The RNG rival is not favoring Synn right now. Moves out of the way of the Pong, and even with all that bad RNG, it looks like, yes, he's got it. Synn at a time of 26:33 is going to be the winner of today's races. Quote, meanwhile, is just finishing up Spider Core right now. It's just starting Spider Core right now. Quote is unfortunately not going to be able to reflect that yellow missile. The core moving to the bottom side of the screen. Quote getting a lot of yellow projectiles, which is unfortunate. His health is kind of low right now. Hopefully he can finish off this fight. He might take an intentional death at the next crawler phase, as he's 1 hit away from death. Quote now going into the crawler core section. Yep, he does end up taking the intentional death on the crawler core. He wants to make sure he has a full health bar here. Doesn't want us to waste any time losing a fight halfway through it. And his quote likes to stay to the bottom of the screen, I've noticed during this fight. Narrowly avoids that attack there. It's unfortunate. I feel like Quote's had a lot of unfortunate RNG today. Been seeing a lot of yellow-based attacks coming at him there. Quote's just finishing off the crawler core now. Moving on to the 2 health bar fight, the final fight against the rival. There can only be one hero. We need to teach the rival that real quick now. This final fight here, we're looking for certain attacks that are going to make the rival stand still while he does it. We definitely do not want to see those katanas come out again. Quote opting not to play Pong. Gets a good deflection in there. Knocks the rival to the ground where he can continue to deal damage. Quote finishing off the first of the health bars here. Lots of missiles. Missiles aren't the worst attack that the rival can do here. It does block some of our damage, but it's not a katana, so. Getting him down to just about half health now. Opts not to play Pong again. Ooh, there's the katana we don't want to see. And looks like he might be able to. Yes! Quote finishes it off with a time of 29:59. So that means that today's winner will be LordSynn. Let's make sure we can give LordSynn his victory Sunday. Oop, I'm sorry, people. I do not know my left from my right. There it is. Congrats on LordSynn. Congrats to Quote. Thank you guys so much for those the races today. Thank you all for coming out and joining us today. Can we get a good GG for both of our runners in here? Thank you to Lord. Thank you to Quote. Yeah, if you're interested in the game, Bleed 2, we do have a Discord over here that you can see on screen here. If you want to get started to run it, play it casually, whatever. We'll plenty of nice, friendly people here on the in the community that I'm sure will be grateful to help you out.